The long-awaited Hytale summer blog post has finally come, showcasing the brand new engine with new gameplay, screenshots, and even showcasing the new scaraks rework. Let's get into the engine first because I think that's what everyone here is excited about. For context, we have not seen any Hytale gameplay in over 1.5 years. The reason for that is because they said they were reworking their engine, changing the coding language and compatibility features so that eventually the game will be able to launch on not only PC but also consoles. There's a LinkedIn page from one of the developers hinting at what the possible platforms could be, and the list is as follows. You're going to be able to play Hytale on your PC, Mac OS, PlayStation, Xbox, Nintendo Switch, iOS, and Android. Any device you can think of, you'll be able to play Hytale, which means that whenever you're on the toilet, you're going to be able to boot up Orbis and kill some Quebecs. But going back on topic, the reason they haven't shown us any gameplay is because they didn't want to show us anything from the legacy engine. That's what they're calling their old engine, where we've seen the previous screenshots from. They thought that the old engine didn't represent what Hytale's vision is anymore, and so they didn't want to show us any gameplay that we wouldn't be able to play anyway because it's in a completely different engine. Well, the time is up and their new engine is almost complete. They're moving over the last developers to continue working on it, and they're finally able to show us some progress. And the gameplay / screenshots that they showed us were kind of controversial. The screenshot shown is a chest, a torch, and a cave with some trees and bush around it. There's nothing really exciting about it, but you really get to notice the details when you look at the before and after of the same scene from the legacy engine to the new engine. They mentioned in the blog post that to an untrained eye, you might not be able to tell the differences. I'm going to zoom into a few locations so you can really tell the difference. And the new engine, if I'm going to be completely honest, doesn't really look that good, but that's the point of it. They're just showing progress right now. Everyone is complaining that, oh, the legacy engine looks so much better, they're ruining the game, they went a step backwards. But remember, this is a new engine with a lot of new capabilities, and this is pre-alpha footage. Find any of your favorite games in pre-alpha and it'll probably look the same. Think GTA 6, what the leaks of a pre-alpha version looked like to the trailer of the game. There are some noticeable things that changed. For one, you probably noticed that the pig is gone. They killed the pig in the new engine. The torches are massive compared to the old engine, and wait, branches are gone? They just replaced them with full blocks? They gave an explanation to this. None of the features that you saw in the legacy engine are actually gone. A lot of things are just placeholders, such as the torches or the block representing the branches. It's just in an earlier stage of development, and so they haven't been able to get all of the details in, such as the animations, which they said in the blog that they're currently working on. If you're looking at the screenshot and you're still really disappointed, I don't blame you. This is not a very exciting look at Hytale. This is a very open book, and I'm sure if they wanted to show us a really nice version of gameplay, they could fake it. But I think that shows a bit of honesty from the Hytale team that they're able to show us this screenshot without being ashamed of it. This is the current state of the engine, and they mentioned that by the end of the year, which we're going to get a blog post by the way, Hytale is going to be in its most functional state ever, meaning that it's going to be far ahead of what the legacy engine was, and I'm really excited to see what the before and after of this engine is 6 months in the future when we get this winter blog post. One thing is for sure, the Hytale art style did not change. We see a lot of lighting improvements, but they say that the lighting hasn't even been fully worked on, which gets me really excited of what the possibilities of this specific scene could be with a fully programmed engine. There's a small little section about creator outreach before we get into the scaraks rework. They say that they have been reaching out to certain creators since even last year, asking for feedback and insights about what they may need for Hytale to become this creative powerhouse. And speaking of Hytale creators, I'm trying to make this my full-time career when the game drops, so a subscribe would be super appreciated. Let's move on to the second part of the blog post where they talk about the scaraks rework. I mentioned this in one of my previous videos, how there were teases of the scaraks rework, and a YouTuber named Quebec Corner was able to see some concept art. Well, now the world gets to see this concept art and the new models, and let me say, scaraks are my new favorite faction. Yes, that is a bold statement, but I hope that at the end of this video, you guys are going to be able to agree with me as well. Last blog post, they showed us a Quebec rework and talked about how they're bringing all of their factions back into the think tank to reimagine them to make them feel more Hytale. The Scaraks were part of this. They didn't really fit the Hytale vibe. Their lore presented them as these smart creatures previously enslaving Pharons, but their designs and characteristics didn't really portray that. Well, the new Scaraks definitely do. We see 8 concept arts showing Scarak environments of what their lands, their hives, and their possible teamwork and coordination could look like. There's a few notable pieces that I'm going to point out. 1. There's giant webs with a player trying to crawl up. Think of the scale. I think that's the best word to describe these new Scaraks. The scale of the hives, of the models themselves, are a lot more massive. We can see in this delta image that a player is trying to crawl through a Scarak nest. It looks like a labyrinth. Is our player actually going to be able to crawl? It looks like he has a headlight on him. That kind of confirms that headgear will have some functional purpose, such as being used as a flashlight. Now, if electronics are going to be powering that, or some natural element like a glow bug, we'll have to see. But the fact that this headgear exists and the fact that we're crawling through this labyrinth is very exciting in terms of an immersive perspective, but also in terms of a gameplay perspective. Imagine spending 30 plus minutes just trying to figure out how to get to the center. Then you get rewarded by seeing this inner hive of Scaraks where they're all working together and you figure out the secrets of the Scaraks. Another interesting concept art that I found was the Juliet concept art. We see a player holding what seems to be maybe an egg or some sort of rock with the Scaraks. Does that mean that we're going to be able to be friends with the Scaraks? We've always seen them as kind of an oppressive force, a natural evil that if we see them, we just have to fight and slay them. But this hints at the fact that we can maybe even become friends with the Scaraks, which is something that I didn't expect but am happy to do if the opportunity presents itself. There's 2 more concept arts I want to show you before going into the brand new models, and that is the Kilo concept art, where you see the Scaraks walking along a path alongside a giant husk or exoskeleton of what looks to be a Scarak. Were they that big in previous times, or are there really some Scaraks alive in the current world of Orbis that amass this amount of size? I mean, this is maybe 200, 300 times the size of the Scaraks that we see in the concept art. The last concept art shows some very, very dark themes. It's Scaraks inside of a nest. We see a bunch of arms coming out of holes, and most importantly, we see a bunch of skeletons, skulls being grabbed. We see a Scarak eating a foot. I mean, if you thought this game was for children, I think you are strongly mistaken. This is going to have some very dark elements. We also see these 2 arms ripping apart limbs. I can't even wait to see what these kind of themes are going to look like in game. And speaking of in game, we got the first models of the Scaraks in game. The first one is of a Scarak warrior. This is going to serve as the base model. While it's not necessarily going to be the one used in game, this is going to be the reference for all future Scaraks to build off of, that they need to look similar to this warrior. The warrior used to look like the screenshot shown right now, but now it's a lot more alien-like, a lot more cybernetic, a lot more modern. Let me know what you think of these new Scaraks, because it's definitely a sharp contrast to what we had before. We got 2 more models in-game of the new Scaraks, although not in 3D, of the Guard and the Sentry. I will say these are some of my favorite models of all of Hytale that we've seen so far, and I can't wait to see the other new Scaraks that we've been teased with some brand new concept art. Going down the list, we have some of the cutest Scaraks. I didn't even think bugs could be this cute. The baby Scaraks that I need a plushie of. We have the warrior that we now see in 3D. We have a sort of bus or truck. We've seen this in one of the concept arts I showed you earlier, where a lot of the baby Scaraks are on top of this bus-like Scarak. It seems to be the mode of transportation communication. Then we have the tank as shown, and then we have two monoliths of scaraks, which I'm gonna be honest, I don't even know how to describe. They look like centaurs. To me, it's giving like king and queen vibes. The skinnier one giving more queen, maybe it's more agile and dangerous, and the king is the one that's controlling everything. There's also the scouts flying above, and this cool mole-like scarak. It has one eye. It reminded me of the Leviathan from Subnautica, if you've ever played that game before. It's very creepy, and it's definitely the one that we saw from the concept art sticking out of the walls. All of these scaraks have a brand new vision for them. They're a lot more organized. To quote, they have a highly ordered hierarchical system forming a chain of command that allows for swift, sometimes uncanny feats of coordination. This can make them look psychic, but really what you're seeing is sophisticated systems at work. I think that the change from this more rudimentary bug-like look to a more alien and robotic style definitely helps with the idea that they're a lot smarter and organized. When you just see the old bugs, you think, oh, well, they're just bugs. I'm gonna go in with a flamethrower and burn them all. But now that you see these brand new scaraks, you might actually need to put in some strategy if you want to eliminate a nest. Or they're still flammable and you can just flamethrower them. That was the brand new blog post, and if you're still at the end of this video and you're like, wait, that's it? I can understand that. They're trying not to show that much, and we might have to wait until the winter blog post until things really ramp up. My prediction is still the summer 2025 release date, and so if they start ramping up for winter, we have around 6 months of marketing and full-on production for Hytale and Hytale News, which I think is very exciting. They do talk about the fact that they're going to continue communication through the technical blog posts that we've had, Ask Hytales, John's Twitter replies, and any other sort of smaller communications. If you want to be notified of any of these Hytale news that are going to be happening throughout the year, make sure you subscribe, because you know for a fact I'm going to be covering it first. Thanks for watching. YouTube really thinks you're going to like the video on screen, so why not click it and find out if YouTube is right.